Chosen one, anchor your spirit to what I am about to say right now. That exhaustion you have been carrying this week, the kind that sleep does not fix, I need you to hear what God says about it. He sees it. Every single layer of it. The enemy has been working overtime this week for one reason, and one reason only. He knows what God is about to release over your life. And a tired chosen one who keeps going anyway is the most dangerous weapon on the battlefield. It all shifts from here. The weariness, the weight, the wondering if any of it is worth it. But hear me clearly, this is not ending because you finally caught a break. It is ending because of what you have done in the middle of the exhaustion. That is what changed everything. Think back to that moment this week when every part of you wanted to stop. Maybe you sat at the edge of your bed in the early hours of the morning and you just stared at nothing. You had nothing left to pray, nothing left to believe with. But you did not walk away. You stayed. You did not know it then. But that moment of staying, that quiet, invisible, unwitnessed act of endurance, that was not weakness. That was the moment heaven moved on your behalf. You did not find this message by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. God did. This is a divine appointment that was written into your story before time began. You are standing at a threshold right now, and what you receive in the next few minutes is going to reframe everything you thought this season was about. Stay until the very last second, because in the next few minutes, I am going to hand you the verdict that cancels the enemy's assignment of burnout over your life. I am going to walk you through the exact lie that has been draining you from the inside so you can identify it and cut it off at the root. And at the end, we are going to seal this declaration together with a prayer that covers every layer of your exhaustion and replaces it with supernatural strength. Do not click away. Your future self is standing just on the other side of this message, and they are begging you to stay. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. The silence in your home has not just been quiet, it has been heavy. Like the air is pressing down on you from every direction, and you cannot explain why. Maybe you have been keeping it together on the outside while falling apart on the inside. Maybe you went through all the motions this week, showed up, smiled, did what you were supposed to do, but on the drive home, maybe it was in the car alone where the mask finally came off and you just sat there in the parking lot, too tired to go inside. Or maybe you woke up at 3:00 inches the morning this week, and the first thing that hit you before you even fully opened your eyes was that familiar wave of dread. Not fear, exactly, just weight. Just this knowing that another day was starting and you were not sure you had anything left to give it. You feel like you have been running a race that no one else can see, and the finish line keeps moving. And in that place, the enemy has started whispering a very specific lie. He has been telling you that your tiredness is evidence of your failure. He has been replaying moments from recent weeks in your mind, that conversation you did not handle perfectly, that commitment you could not keep, that day you could not get out of bed, and you told yourself you would pray, and you did not. He is holding those moments up like evidence and telling you that this is why God feels distant. He is telling you that you burned out because something is wrong with you, that chosen people do not get this tired, that your exhaustion disqualifies you. But I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about this moment. Isaiah 40:29 says, "He gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might, he increases strength." Listen to that promise carefully. He gives power to the faint, not to the strong, not to the ones who have it all together. He gives it specifically and intentionally to the faint, to the one who has run out. That means your exhaustion is not a barrier to God's power moving in your life. It is the precise condition that activates it. You do not have to get stronger before He moves. He moves because you are faint. The enemy has been lying to you about your tiredness. He has been trying to convince you that it is proof of your failure. But heaven reads it differently. Your exhaustion is not evidence that you have been abandoned. It is evidence that you have been fighting, and fighters do not get tired from doing nothing. You are tired because you have been carrying something real, pushing against something real, believing for something real, and that matters to God. The heaviness you feel is not the weight of punishment. It is the weight of a season that is about to break open. It is the tension in the rope right before the breakthrough pulls through. You are not falling behind. You are not disqualified. You are not forgotten. You are a chosen one at the end of a war that you already won. The moment this week when you had nothing left and stayed anyway, that was not your lowest point. That was your most powerful act of faith, and God saw every second of it. Most chosen ones who hear a message like this feel the fire for about 48 hours. Then the dryness returns, the doubt creeps back, the silence gets louder, and within a week, they are exactly where they were before, waiting, wondering, spiritually exhausted. That cycle breaks today, or it does not. The inner sanctum puts a prophetic word from the throne room in your hands every single morning, 365 days of hearing God before the world can speak first. The link is in the first pinned comment. It will not be there forever, and neither will this window God just opened for you. And if that landed somewhere deep in your chest, if something in you said, "Yes, that's me," I want you to know that this message was not an accident. Before we go further, I need to tell you about something I put together specifically for people who are in this season. It's called Times, the Chosen One's Survival Guide. Times, a free ebook designed for the ones who carry more than most, who feel the weight of a calling they can't always explain. You can grab it right now through the link in the description. It will meet you exactly where you are. Now let's go deeper, because what I'm about to share is going to change the way you see your exhaustion entirely. Most people think being tired means something is wrong. They treat it like a warning light on a dashboard, a glaring signal that they've veered off course, that they've failed in some fundamental way. It feels like a personal indictment, a sign that their faith has wavered, that God has somehow retreated into silence, leaving them alone in the dust. But here's a truth that often gets lost in the noise of our striving. The profound depth of your fatigue, the bone-weary exhaustion that settles into your very marrow, is frequently the most eloquent testament to the immense weight you've been shouldering, a burden that was never intended for you to bear in isolation. You haven't grown tired because you are inherently weak. Rather, you've found yourself strong in places where countless others would have buckled and collapsed under the sheer pressure of it all. It's not a mark of failure, but a testament to your resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. Consider the prophet Elijah. We often recall the Elijah who stood as a solitary beacon on Mount Carmel, a figure of divine power calling down fire from the heavens, a spectacle of audacious faith. That is the Elijah who captures our imagination and our memory. But I want you to turn your gaze to a different Elijah, an Elijah who ran, an Elijah who, utterly spent and at the end of his rope, found himself beneath a broom tree in the desolate wilderness, his spirit a parched desert, uttering the words, "It is enough. Lord, take my life." This was not the cry of a man who had lost his faith. It was the raw, unvarnished plea of a soul who had poured out everything, who had given his all, and in the visible realm felt utterly depleted, as if there was nothing left to draw from. And what was God's response? Did he offer a stern reprimand? Did he command Elijah to return to the mountain and try harder, to muster more spiritual grit? No. God, in his infinite mercy, allowed him to sleep. And then a divine messenger, an angel, gently touched him and spoke words of profound significance. "Arise and eat. The journey is too great for you." Notice the precision of that language. It wasn't, "The journey is over." It wasn't, "You have failed." It was, "The journey is too great for times you." This implies that the weight you carry is real, that the task before you is indeed immense, but crucially, it acknowledges that the way you have been carrying it, alone and without respite, is unsustainable. And that message, "The journey is too great for you," is a divine whisper meant for someone listening right now. The journey is too great, not for the Almighty, not for the divine power that orchestrates the cosmos, but for the isolated version of yourself that has been attempting to navigate this path without the essential elements of rest, of replenishment, of the fundamental human permission to simply be weary. But here's where the revelation deepens, where we peel back another layer of understanding. The core of the issue isn't merely the presence of fatigue. It's the insidious belief system you've inadvertently adopted about your tiredness. Somewhere along the winding road of your spiritual journey, you may have absorbed a flawed theology, one that equates rest with idleness, that interprets silence as an indicator of divine absence, and that perpetuates the myth that to cease forward motion is to lose momentum, to forfeit favor, to be disqualified from the sacred race. Consequently, you found yourself pushing relentlessly through seasons that were meticulously designed to invite pause and recalibration. You've inadvertently spiritualized your own depletion, transforming what was a divine signal for rest into a badge of honor, calling it sacrifice when heaven was clearly marking it as a critical signpost. This is the subtle, often unrecognized barrier that holds so many chosen ones captive. It's not always the external adversary that saps your strength most profoundly. It is, more often than not, your own deeply ingrained internal agreement that you must somehow earn the unearned grace that God has already freely bestowed. It's the persistent notion that you must validate your worthiness through sheer output, that your inherent value is inextricably linked to your productivity, your visibility, your unwavering consistency. And beloved, this is not faith. This is performance art, meticulously disguised as devout worship. And what is about to unfold next is likely to catch you by surprise. It has a way of doing that, doesn't it? Because once you begin to recognize that internal agreement for the illusion it truly is, you are compelled to confront something even more intimate, something rooted in your personal history. You must ask yourself, who first planted this seed? Who in your formative years modeled a relationship with the divine that was characterized by relentless striving, incessant doing, and a constant need to prove oneself? Because far more often than we realize, the exhaustion that plagues us isn't solely a spiritual affliction. It is an inherited burden. It has been passed down through generations who knew no respite, because rest was perceived as unsafe, a luxury they could not afford. They never stopped because to pause meant falling irretrievably behind. They mistook survival mode for faithfulness. And you, my friend, have likely been operating under a script that was written long before you ever entered the stage of life. David, the shepherd boy who would become king, understood this profoundly. Not the David who faced down the giant, not the David adorned with the crown and the mantle of royalty. Think of David the shepherd. Consider those formative years spent in obscurity, learning the subtle cadence of God's voice in the profound silence, long before he ever set foot on a battlefield. The anointing preceded the assignment. The deep preparation occurred long before the public platform, and it was in that season of waiting, of watchful stillness, of quiet obscurity, that is where the true, foundational work of his character was forged. God was not absent during David's hidden years, far from it. God was meticulously crafting within David a resilience, a character, a spiritual depth that no amount of public acclaim or success could ever have cultivated. Stay with me, because what is about to be revealed is the very element that has the power to shatter this inherited cycle, to break the chains of this relentless striving. You see, many people yearn for the breakthrough without embracing the essential process of becoming. They crave the open door without recognizing the vital inner work that the season of closed doors was designed to cultivate within them. But your tiredness, that profound, bone-deep, soul-level fatigue you're experiencing, is very often a clear indicator that a profound metamorphosis is underway. It signals that God is not merely clearing a path times for times you, but more importantly, He is diligently preparing times you, times for the path ahead. And these two aspects, while interconnected, are distinct and equally crucial. Now, here is a truth that many find difficult to accept, a part of the journey that often gets overlooked. Some of the immense weight you find yourself carrying right now, you willingly took it on yourself. Not out of recklessness, but because of your inherent sense of responsibility, because you possess a deep capacity to care, because when others faltered and turned away, you chose to remain. When the burden seemed too heavy for anyone else to lift, you graciously bent down and took it upon yourself, and you labeled this act as love, and in many respects, it truly was. But love, in its purest form, does not necessitate your own disappearance. True love does not demand that you continue to pour from an empty well, and then, impossibly, pour some more. At some critical juncture, the most faithful, the most loving act you can possibly undertake is to gently set down the burdens that were never divinely placed upon your shoulders, and to trust implicitly that God possesses the power to sustain and complete the work He initiated without the need for your constant, exhausting intervention. Picture Moses. Not the Moses standing triumphantly at the parting of the Red Sea, but the Moses in the desert, alongside his father-in-law, Jethro. Imagine Jethro observing Moses laboring from dawn till dusk, mediating endless disputes, with a seemingly infinite line of people stretching before him. And Jethro, with profound wisdom, offered words that resonated with divine truth. What you are doing is not good. You will surely wear yourself out, both you and these people with you, for the thing is too heavy for you. Moses was undoubtedly engaged in God's work, carrying immense and vital responsibility. Yet, he was attempting to shoulder it alone in a manner that was fundamentally unsustainable. And God, in His wisdom, used a man from outside the established religious structure, an outsider, to illuminate a more effective, a more sustainable way. Sometimes, your most significant breakthrough doesn't emerge from intensified prayer or prolonged fasting. Sometimes it arises from the courageous act of learning to delegate, to embrace genuine rest, to release the reins of control, and to confidently trust that God has intentionally placed capable individuals around you for precisely this purpose. And here's where the message becomes even more intimately specific to your current experience. Often, lurking beneath the surface of your profound exhaustion lies an unacknowledged grief, a loss that has remained unnamed and unaddressed. It might be the letting go of a cherished relationship, the relinquishing of a deeply held dream, or the acceptance that a particular season of life did not unfold in accordance with your heartfelt expectations. You've continued to move forward, perhaps because to stop felt akin to giving up, to surrendering. You've persisted in serving, possibly because to halt would mean confronting the very emotions and pains you've been desperately outrunning. But grief, my dear one, when deferred, does not vanish. It doesn't evaporate into thin air. Instead, it infiltrates the very core of your being, settling deep within your bones. It coalesces into a pervasive heaviness, a burden that seems to lack any discernible source. It manifests as a tiredness that no amount of sleep, no simple rest, can truly alleviate. Know this: God is intimately aware of that grief. He is not asking you to perform your way through it, to outrun it with sheer willpower. He is not demanding that you present a facade of having it all together before He intervenes on your behalf. The invitation, and it is unequivocally an invitation, not a directive, is to bring it all to Him. every facet of it. The lingering disappointment, the profound confusion, those moments when you offered a brave smile to the world while your inner landscape was fracturing. He is more than capable of holding what you have been struggling to carry. He always has been. You simply needed to arrive at the edge of your own finite capacity to believe it was possible. And this brings us to a crucial insight that so many seekers entirely miss. The very manifestation you are desperately awaiting from God in your personal life, in your challenging circumstances, within your physical body, in the dynamics of your relationships is, in a multitude of cases, already in profound motion. The only impediment is your perspective from your current vantage point. Because when you are immersed in the midst of a genuine transformation, it rarely, if ever, looks times like transformation. It often presents as sheer confusion. It feels like an inexplicable delay. It can manifest as everything seemingly falling apart, when in reality, every single element is being divinely repositioned for a grander purpose. Consider Joseph, languishing in the pit. From that suffocating darkness, he could have no conceivable awareness of the palace that awaited him. From the pit, the palace is an invisible concept, an unimaginable reality. All that existed was the pit itself, but that pit was not a punishment. It was the critical initial phase of a divine repositioning, a profound recalibration that would ultimately save entire nations. What felt like abandonment was, in truth, unparalleled advancement, disguised in a form his limited eyes could not yet comprehend. Coming up, the singular element that most chosen ones instinctively shy away from, precisely because it feels like surrender, but which is, in fact, the very key that unlocks everything. Here is where the true confrontation commences, the heart of the matter. We've been exploring your fatigue, the weights you carry, the unspoken grief, the inherited patterns, but now I must address something that lies even deeper beneath the surface of all those tangible burdens. Something that has been quietly residing beneath every earnest prayer, every dedicated fast, every persistent urge to simply keep pushing forward. And that underlying reality is this. Somewhere within the deepest recesses of your being, there resides a pervasive fear. A fear that if you were to truly let go, to genuinely release your grip on control, to relinquish the predetermined outcome, to surrender the strict timeline you've envisioned, that God might somehow fail to come through, that the object of your fervent belief and sustained hope might simply not materialize, that you could experience periods of rest, of stillness, and then awaken to discover that nothing has fundamentally shifted, that no progress has been made, that the wait was ultimately in vain. That fear, my friend, is the authentic root, not laziness, not defiance. It is fear. A profound, entirely understandable, and deeply human fear that articulates itself thusly. I have remained faithful, and yet my circumstances remain arduously difficult. I have strived for obedience, and the promised breakthrough continues to elude me. And if I cease my relentless striving toward it, it will surely never arrive. That fear is the invisible puppeteer, compelling you to perform when your spirit desperately needs to rest. It's what keeps you speaking when the divine imperative is to listen. It's what propels you into motion when God has been consistently inviting you to be still and to know His presence. And I need you to internalize this crucial point. That fear, however potent, does not disqualify you. It merely illuminates your profound humanity. It serves as evidence of how deeply this journey matters to you. But it is also precisely the leverage the adversary seeks to maintain your perpetual motion, your endless spinning cycle. Because a chosen one who is incapable of resting is a chosen one who is fundamentally barred from receiving. And everything you have been yearning for, everything you have been believing for, requires a posture of profound receptivity, not merely a relentless, exhausting pursuit. Here lies the profound revelation, the element that has the power to shatter these cycles and usher in liberation. The individuals who consistently receive the most abundantly from God are not invariably those who have accomplished the most times for times God. Instead, they are often the ones who cultivated sufficient trust in Him to simply cease striving, to find a place of stillness within the often uncomfortable quietude, and to declare with unwavering conviction, "I may not fully grasp this particular season, but I absolutely trust the God who orchestrates this season." This is not an act of passivity. It is, in fact, the most advanced and sophisticated form of faith. It is the visible manifestation of a chosen one, finally aligning not merely with the boundless power of God, but crucially, with the divine pace of God. And that fundamental shift, that singular, interior transition from relentless striving to unwavering trust, is not something you can artificially manufacture or force into being. It is something into which you surrender. It is a choice you embrace, moment by precious moment, even when every primal instinct screams at you to push harder. And with each deliberate choice you make to embrace this surrender, something within the spiritual atmosphere begins to subtly, yet significantly, shift. A deep-seated tension within your physical being starts to release its grip. Something that felt locked away, inaccessible, begins to gently open, not because you have somehow earned it, but because you have finally ceased to obstruct its flow with the sheer force of your own exhaustion. And now, prepare for the unexpected, the element that you likely did not anticipate, the piece of the puzzle you haven't yet seen, the breakthrough you have been relentlessly reaching for, the one that your fatigue, your steadfast faithfulness, your enduring hope, and your processed grief have all been moving toward it, is not contingent upon your perfection. It is not waiting for your complete and utter healing. It is not on hold until you possess all the answers, or until you have finally mastered the art of carrying this immense load with effortless grace. No, beloved, it is waiting with infinite patience for your surrender. That is all. Not your arrival at some perceived state of perfection, your surrender. Not your imagined strength, your humble willingness to acknowledge your weariness, to admit your need for assistance, to confess that you cannot accomplish this alone, and to place your unshakable trust in the one who can. That, my dear one, is the very moment heaven has been anticipating with bated breath. Not your most polished hour, but your most honest one. So, as you are present in this moment, if you find yourself carrying a weight far heavier than you were ever meant to bear alone, if you have been embodying strength for so long that the sensation of vulnerability, of needing support, has become a distant memory, if you have been diligently serving, sacrificing, believing, and pushing relentlessly forward, I invite you to undertake a simple, yet profoundly powerful action. Place your hand gently upon your heart and speak these words aloud, for there is an undeniable power inherent in spoken declaration. I am tired, and that reality is not a testament to my failure. I consciously release the ingrained agreement that my worth is measured by my output or my achievements. I willingly let go of every weight I have assumed out of fear, out of a sense of obligation, or from the deeply held belief that no one else would carry it. I now grant God explicit permission to accomplish what lies beyond my own capabilities. I embrace and receive rest, not as a sign of weakness, but as a deliberate act of faith. I trust implicitly that the breakthroughs I have been praying for are already in divine motion, even when my current perspective prevents me from seeing them. I am chosen. I am eternally carried by divine love, and I do not need to earn that which has already been freely and abundantly given. The profound tiredness I have been carrying is not my ultimate destiny. My true destiny is to walk in the fullness of everything God declared I would experience, and I now step toward that destiny, not with the force of striving, but with the grace of surrender. If this message has resonated with you today, if it has touched a chord within your spirit, know with certainty that you did not stumble upon it by mere chance. Share this message with another soul who desperately needs to hear that God sees their exhaustion, that He witnesses their struggle, and that He understands. Leave a comment below and share with me what specific burden are you choosing to release today, because your words carry immense weight, and your testimony has the potential to be someone else's pivotal turning point. You are not navigating this season in solitude, and you never have been.